Hello and welcome to another episode of The Kid Stays in the Podcast. I'm your host, Trey Cooper, and joining me today is...
Solemn Multiverse Cooper.
Oh, that was what you're so proud of?
Mm-hmm. Good, right? Solemn Multiverse?
Yeah. No. I don't know.
I think...
They can vote if they think that was
How
worth
are they
it.
going to do that?
They can write a comment. They can send us a letter.
On Spotify, they're going to write a comment?
Yeah, they can. Or social media.
Okay. All right. Yeah, you're right.
Anyway, yes, we have a very, very packed show. In fact, we're probably going to be splitting this into two parts because...
Which is fun.
Yeah, just to make it a little bit more digestible. But we are diving deep into the multiverse. We have been promising you that we're going to talk about everything, everywhere, all at once, and we're going to keep that promise. But we're also going to be talking about Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. These movies are kind of opposite sides of the same coin in some ways. And so we thought it would be a really interesting discussion to be able to compare and contrast these two multiverse movies.
Yes. We're going to get some Venn diagrams out here.
Oh.
Actually, that's not true.
Yeah, we're going to get some chalkboards and show how they overlap.
Yeah, you know, like that meme where it's like that guy and he's like, it's like a conspiracy theorist and he's like slapping the board and he's being like this.
No, I'm not familiar with that meme.
Well, it's really funny. It's like me explaining all of Destiny 2 lore to someone, and it's like that guy.
Okay. I'll take your word for it. But we do have a tiny bit of, loose ends we need to tie up before we jump into those two movies. And that is Moon Knight. Moon Knight has resolved.
Yeah.
And that's kind of about the amount of enthusiasm that I can muster up for the ending of Moon Knight.
Well, you know what? I'll be more excited
it's
then.
It's resolved. No, it's not that it ends poorly or anything, or it doesn't have cool action beats or dramatic character. There's a lot of neat moments, but I would just say that I did not feel like it ever cohered into a story. Like, I don't understand why that was a story that they wanted to tell.
Because it was fun.
There's not a beginning, middle, end to that story.
There is a beginning, middle, end.
There is? What's the character's arc?
What are the characters' arc? They learn to
name
live with each other.
me the arc of the show.
They learn to live with each other.
Okay, sure. That's an arc.
The character's arc, yes.
They learn to live with each other as an entire arc.
They learn to not hate each other, and they learn to share.
But they themselves are basically the same person.
Yeah, but they're not at all, though.
How?
They're the same body, but not the same person.
No, but I feel like you're almost intentionally misunderstanding me with your ignorance. Each individual person, Steven and Mark, are the same at the end as they were at the beginning. Sure, they learn to live together.
Oh.
Like weird inter-body sharing roommates.
They learned who they are.
They each just learned who the other person was. They don't have any arc themselves.
Well,
do you not understand what I'm saying to you?
I do. I understand.
Yes. How is Steven different than he was at the beginning? And how is Mark different than he was at the beginning? Other than the fact that they learned to live and accept each other.
There's something that happened.
Yeah, exactly. So the show has no beginning, a middle, and end.
Why is it only based off of the character arc?
It technically does, in the sense that it does turn on, and then there is a middle part that you have to watch, and then it does have credits that roll at the end. So I guess technically, but it's just very confusing. I mean, it's like, why these actors? And look, this is sounding a lot more negative than how I felt about it. It was a very entertaining show. I had a great time with it for the most part, but I was just left feeling kind of hollow at the end. Like, it doesn't resolve, but they keep trying to tell us that the show is a one-off and that there are no plans for a second season. I'm sure they're full of crap and they're just lying to us. But still, every other Marvel show had a story that you understood why it was being told this way. You know what I mean? By this way, I mean on TV instead of in a movie, Even like the weaker shows like Falcon and Winter Soldier, which I think...
That's a weaker show?
Well, what do you think of all the shows? We have WandaVision, which at least is incredibly creative for the 90% of the time until it kind of gets bland at the very end. I think Hawkeye was incredibly fun with a delightful 80s action movie style.
I liked it a lot, but I just feel like that's weaker than.
And so I liked Winter Soldier. I just thought that it was very, very generic.
Okay.
So my point is that all of those have a story that you understand why they wanted to tell them and why they needed to tell them in this format instead of just doing a movie. This felt like a huge amount of padding for no real reason to not really tell a story. There wasn't really a story here.
Yeah, there was.
Crazy bad guy wants to awaken evil god. That's the beginning and end of the whole story.
No. Then protagonist has some turmoil.
Those are just details. I'm just talking about as far as the actual story.
Oh, yeah.
That's a really tiny story, and they really don't even delve into it hardly at all until the very end. They keep a bizarre amount of things like in the shadows. 3 episodes in before we even understand what the plot of the show is. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, and it's not until like episode 4 or 5. 4 starts to get 4 does the whole Indiana Jones thing, and that starts to get like fun. But it's so weird. It's just such a small story that it felt so weird to be this 6-part Marvel show. It honestly felt like it could be 3 episodes easily.
Yeah, sure,
But you do get to see some cool Egyptian god kaiju fighting by the end, and you get to see a lot more of Moon Knight. And you get to see him switching back and forth between Mark's Moon Knight and
Steven's. What is it called? It's like Fancy Moon or something like that, or Mr. Moon.
Really? He has a different name? I didn't even notice that.
Well, I don't think they ever reference it, but yeah, I know he has a different name in like the comics.
Yeah, and I think Oscar Isaac did a really great job. Still have no clue, no idea what drew Ethan Hawke to this project. He's turned down so many Marvel things in the past because they didn't seem interesting to him. I do not understand what seemed interesting about Harrow to him. Like, the idea of Harrow is cool. Someone wanted to describe him to me, but he just gets nothing to do.
Well, maybe he was only described to him.
And he just signed on as a good deed.
Yeah.
So anyway, go ahead. You liked it a lot more. You say your piece before we just give our final rating on it and move on, because we can't spend a lot of time on this today.
I thought it was really cool. They had a really great 5th episode, which was really dramatic. It told us where Steven comes from, who's the original inhabitor of the body. You learn a lot of good information, and
I agree. I thought that was all really great,
and it was really interesting because basically both of the characters got to watch each other's memories, and it was just really cool, and
it was a really powerful backstory.
Yeah,
and why do we have 4 episodes before we get to the powerful backstory? I feel like the characters would have been
cool way to get.
I feel like they would have just been much more interesting if we would have gotten that way earlier in the show. Because as it was, Mark was kind of a boring character compared to Steven for almost the entire show until we learned his backstory.
That's true. Maybe 3rd or 2nd episode would have been better.
Yeah. But that would have meant they couldn't have all that fun padding that they wanted to.
I liked the padding. The padding was awesome. I wish there was more padding.
I bet you do.
And then the 6th episode, which is where my one nitpick was, it was like cool action. Like my dad said, like switching between each person. So that was fun. But they fight Harrow, and Harrow I don't understand him.
Yes.
I don't understand his powers.
I don't understand anything about what he...
You see, at first it makes sense. He has a for one, also, he's not an avatar. He's just a dude wearing like some slippers or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Whenever like Steven gets a cool Moon Knight outfit, or sorry, Mark and Steven get cool outfits.
Right.
And he gets, like I said, all he gets is a stick. And it shoots vague purple stuff that kills people or something like that. Before, whenever he kills a bunch of people, you can see like their souls leave their bodies and go into Ahmet or whatever. That's her name, right?
Yep.
Well, whenever you shoot people with it, nothing happens. So it just is like death purple.
Yeah, it was very weird. It was like, it honestly really felt like they were like, oh, we have to have a villain in this story, but we're not really focused on that. We're really focused on telling the backstory of Moon Knight so we can go ahead and just get this out of the way so we can get him into Marvel stuff. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And because of that, he just ends up as a really, really weird character.
Yeah. Like you said, at first he seems like really cool and like kind of like.
You think he's gonna be like a charismatic cult leader kind of guy?
Yeah.
Which he is.
Mm-hmm. And he gave me like some Thanos vibes.
Sure.
But yeah, he kind of just felt like a one-note basic villain.
Yeah, and then like you said, once he becomes the Avatar, why doesn't he get every single other person who becomes an Avatar for one of these Egyptian gods gets cool suit and powers, and he gets his eyes just glow purple, and his stick that he already had now, like you said, shoots some kind of vague magic.
Yeah.
All right, we already spent almost over 10 minutes on Moon Knight. So do you any last things, or we can just go ahead and sum it up?
No, I think that's about it, honestly.
Yeah, so I will give Moon Knight, a 7.5 out of 10.
Okay, that's fair. I was gonna give it like an 8.
I forgot to say, I was gonna say 7.5 scarabs.
I was just gonna say like 8.5 moons or something.
Oh wow, even more creative than mine.
8.5 vague purple stuff.
All right. Speaking of vague purple stuff, let's move on to Doctor Strange.
Okay.
What? You don't want to? You want to do everything everywhere?
No, I just don't know how that's.
I don't know. I feel like there's vague purple stuff in Doctor Strange.
There's red.
I'm gonna stick with my
gold.
I think I'm gonna stick with what I said. So the reason I wanted to do Doctor Strange first is it's a much simpler movie to
it's like a
dive into.
lighter read.
And I really want us to be able to get into the meat of kind of talking about the difference between these movies and what works in one versus what doesn't work. So Doctor Strange, do you want to give us the plot synopsis?
Okay.
I'm just going to go ahead and take a nap while I watch you figure out how to do this.
Okay. So, Scarlet Witch from WandaVision. At the end of WandaVision, as you know, she had to like destroy.
What just now happened to your words? You just now like garbled all of your words together.
All right.
You went, I didn't want to
Go night night, Dad. So as we know, at the end of WandaVision, in that show, she, how she had all of her kids. She had to close that place down. She had to close down her shop, and she lost her kids and Vision. So the whole plot of this movie,
because her kids were not real. Yeah,
yes,
she just
they
made
know
them
that.
up.
If they watch the show, they know.
But if they didn't watch the show,
well,
her kids weren't real. She created them.
Same with Vision. Vision was dead.
Yeah,
as you should know. So yeah, in this, basically, the whole point is that she wants to go to one of the multiverses where she has her kids, and there's one person that she knows who can travel through multiverses, and that's the MacGuffin of the film, and that's the whole point. Doctor Strange is trying to protect her, and Scarlet Witch is trying to get her.
Yes, so she can absorb her powers, and the person she's trying to get is America Chavez, who is a very, well, I shouldn't say very, but is a fairly well-known comic character, where her powers are that she can apparently she can create star portals to different dimensions.
Just general star magic, I believe.
Really?
Because remember, she did a stomp and a star came down and it fell.
I did not know that.
Well, I think it's just general stars.
Okay, well, she has her own run of comics right now called America, and but that's actually really good, pretty good plot synopsis that you just did.
Thank you. Thank you.
I won't bury the lead here. I'll just come right out and say I really, really enjoyed this movie.
Me too.
So I'm going to be talking about some things that I think, in hindsight, don't work about the movie, because I feel like it's intellectually dishonest to not acknowledge them. But I will say, this movie is one of the few films that's directed by someone who has a very distinctive style that people are very familiar with, and that is Sam Raimi.
Yep.
So other than like the Thor movies that are directed by, I can't pronounce that guy's name ever. Taiki Watati.
Taiki Watati.
Yeah, whatever. That guy.
Taika Waititi.
You know, but I would say that even his style is more about the pacing and language almost. I'm not saying he doesn't have his own visual style. I'm just saying it's not something I would recognize as quick as I would recognize the language of his scripts. You know what I mean? It's in his very specific sense of humor.
Yes.
So, but Sam Raimi, you know, this is not a journeyman studio director. He is a studio director now, but you know what I mean? This is a guy who has a very distinctive voice. And I was so overwhelmed by the sheer Raiminess of the movie and how much he was able to get that into a huge studio tentpole movie that really did a lot of heavy lifting for me, and just the whole movie just went down very easily because of that.
Yeah.
So this is a fun game that we always play on this podcast.
Oh yes.
So what's your history with Sam Raimi? Have you seen any of his movies before? Did you know what to expect going in? What did you?
No. I've seen Army of Darkness.
Mm-hmm.
So I was familiar with Evil Dead, and I have seen Drag Me to Hell. Kind of a little bit ago. I don't remember it too well. I remember the vague plot. I couldn't give you a plot synopsis.
A girl gets cursed by a gypsy because she won't give her a new house mortgage or whatever.
Thank you. But yeah, that's kind of about it. I honestly just thought this was going to be a cool Marvel movie with...
I mean, that's the decent amount of... And you also have seen Spider-Man.
3?
Spider-Man 1. The original with Tobey Maguire.
He directed that?
Yes, he directed all the first 3. He directed all the Tobey Maguire ones.
Oh, really?
Yes.
I have seen Spider-Man, but I don't feel like that doesn't...
Yeah, there's some Sam Raimi stuff in Spider-Man, mostly coming from Darkman, which I haven't seen that in a really long time, to be totally honest. But yeah, I can understand. It's not a movie that I would say,
shows Sam Raimi.
Yeah, I mean, it does, but yeah, it's not the movie I would point to if I was saying you needed to understand it.
Yeah.
Didn't you watch the Ash versus the Evil Dead show, though?
I watched an episode.
Oh, that's it?
Or 2 or 3. I don't know. I
think that show is really underrated. That show is really great.
But yeah, that's kind of about it. I honestly, before I watched this movie, I didn't know it was directed by Sam Raimi.
Okay, wow, I did not know that. You were not aware. So were you expecting this to be were you surprised about how much of this had the supernatural,
yes,
the demons and the scary imagery, or were you kind of expecting it to be more the psychedelic stuff from the original Doctor Strange?
I was definitely prepared for that weird, what is it? You said psychedelic, but yeah. Yeah. But basically the Necronomicon is basically in this movie.
Yes.
Which is funny.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was really cool. This movie was definitely it was shocking. Like I said before, I was expecting it to be Doctor Strange with Scarlet Witch, basically.
Yeah.
The first one.
Yeah. So this is a full spoiler podcast. Just a reminder to everybody. So if you haven't seen Doctor Strange, you probably will want to push pause and just come back to this another time. But I assume if you turn this on, you have already seen it.
Yeah.
So I think one of the really clever things that they did with the marketing of this movie is you have no idea who the villain of the piece is going to be. You don't really even know what the plot is.
Mm-hmm.
I think, one, it's kind of confusing and convoluted, so I get that part. But also it's because there's a pretty big twist very early in the movie, and that is that the villain is Wanda.
Yeah.
Her
name's Wanda.
Yeah, and it's great because we love her, and we've watched her grow and experience all these horrible tragedies and then grow past them, and then to watch her succumb essentially to, what's that book called? It's good. Now we have to talk about this whole movie without even knowing what that book is called.
Dad.
The evil book.
Keep talking, Dad.
Yeah, so the evil book that she's reading at the end of WandaVision has fully corrupted her. She's using it to try and find which dimension her children are actually real in. And yeah, so Doctor Strange goes and asks her for help at the very beginning of the movie. because they realize that the creatures that have been chasing this girl America Chavez around are demonic in nature. They're not, from a different dimension. Is that kind of how they said it? They're magic creatures, basically.
Yeah.
And they're demons. And so he goes to ask Wanda for help, and she's like in that big, pretty apple orchard that we saw her in. And what's the book called? I know you looked at
Vishanti.
The what?
Vishanti.
Vishanti? I don't remember that's what they were saying.
Are you sure?
Vishanti, that sounds like the book of the good book.
No.
I feel like this book had a creepier name, like Dormammu. I know Dormammu was a guy, but I know Dormammu was that alien, but I feel like it had a name like that.
Oh, wait, no, this is the light-sided one.
That's exactly what I just said.
Wait, no. Yeah, it could undo any dark spell, my bad.
Yes.
I looked up evil book. It didn't work.
Just type in the evil book from Doctor Strange.
That's what I looked up.
Anyway, while Solomon's doing that, so she's in this orchard. He goes and asks her for help. He's like, hey, these demons are attacking us. You're the most powerful witch I know. How can you help us? And she's like, oh, no, I put magic behind me. I'm just living in this thing. And then she slips up and says something and reveals that she did it, and then that she's the one who sent the demons after her. And it was really cool reveal, because it shows you that this book, that Solomon is the worst internet researcher because he hasn't been able to find it using Google in like the last 20 minutes.
Okay.
This book like corrupts everything around it, and she's been using it so much that this whole orchard, it looks like a wasteland. It's like something from Mad Max. And yeah, she basically tells Doctor Strange, give me the girl, and she's going to kill her. She's going to suck out her, because I think we already said this, but her ability, her superpower is that she can travel between multiverses. And at this point in the film, she can't control it, or at this point in her career, she has no control over it. It just happens whenever she gets scared. So every time she gets scared, she ends up bouncing into another multiverse. But yeah, so she basically tells Doctor Strange, either you give me the girl and let me eat her to get her powers, or I'm going to unleash my Scarlet Witch wrath on you. So I'm going to take over for Solomon, trying to find out the name of his book, because he's obviously an imbecile.
It keeps referencing.
No, you're just
Necronomicon.
You're just so bad at it. So why don't you take over from there and kind of tell me what your thoughts were like about that Scarlet Witch reveal, and then meanwhile I'll find this in like 5 seconds.
The Scarlet Witch reveal, when she like the twist.
Yeah, where she reveals that she's bad.
How did I feel about that? You said.
Yeah, just give us some general thoughts. Yeah, your general thoughts about it.
So, very unexpected, like my father said, we had to watch her through all this show. We had to watch her, like we said, we watched the whole season of her show, and we grew attached to her. And it's really interesting because she actually has like a really like kind of understandable like meaning behind it.
It's called The Darkhold, and I found it in 1 second. Sorry that you're so terrible at using the internet, even though you grew up with it.
Are you sure it's called The Darkhold?
Yes, I'm positive that it's called The Darkhold. Now I'm so happy that I was just right. Anyway, finish your thing.
So yeah, she has an understandable backstory in a very weird way, but in her show, she loves those kids, so it makes a lot of sense, and you feel kind of bad for her, because it's like all she wants, and she has like nightmares and whatever about not having her kids.
Yeah, and you do feel bad for her right up until the time when she assaults the fortress, where it looked like a bunch of folks from Shang-Chi had joined up with them. So it's all these different magic people, and she assaults it, and man, oh man, would you not like to be fighting Wanda when she's angry?
She is so cool, though.
She is really cool, but she's so powerful.
And merciless.
And yes, like she is merciless. And she keeps saying, she has this little refrain that she says a couple of times, like Doctor Strange is like, I can't believe you're not doing this. You're not being restrained, or you're not whatever. I can't remember exactly what the line was. And she's like, no, this is me, holding back or whatever. And then even when she like decimates them all, and then there's a really cool moment that's like very Sam Raimi-ish, where she's like trying to use reflections to get into their like inner sanctum. So she like arms and stuff are coming out of, pools of water. And I think she ends up coming out of a pendulum or something, or a gong. And she's like all bent over backwards and twisted up like the Exorcist.
Yeah.
But yeah, even then she's like, and just so you know, that was still me being restrained. And then, man, once she stops being that, it's just horrifying. Like, she really does become a very scary villain.
She can do anything. I think she's the most powerful villain of all time.
Well, there is precedent in the comics that she is one of the most powerful beings. So she is incredibly, incredibly powerful.
She can just manipulate everything.
Yeah. Yes.
And if she got the multiverse power, she would be even crazier.
Yes, and that's the reason they're trying to stop her, is because sure, you could say, oh, she just wants to find one universe, so it's like one life for many lives, right? That old logic. But giving her that access gives her way too much power.
Mm-hmm.
So, and she basically says she's going to do anything for her kids. So if her kids get sick in this universe, she needs to be able to go to another universe where she can take maybe some organs from somebody if they need a transplant. You know what I mean?
Yeah, or because all the multiverses are possible, she can get medicine from anywhere. That's why she has to take the powers.
Right. So one of the big things in this, and I don't want to go into every detail of the plot, but one of the big things is if you use the Darkhold, because it's an evil book, it will allow you to control people's minds across the multiverse. So even if you can't jump there yourself, you can enter their mind via what they call it, dream walking.
Yeah.
Because the logic or the lore in this is that your dreams, all of them are
different multiverses,
a different version of yourself, actual life, like they're actual memories.
Yeah.
So even if you have a crazy dream where you're like a half Spider-Man, or the dream where you're always going to class naked, those, according to the kind of jokey, but they did make it kind of real. Canon, yeah. Lore in this is that those are actually memories from you in a different universe.
Which is also kind of like what some people believe in real life, is that you can like take over someone else's world, or like anything you've ever thought of in your whole life is another multiverse.
Well, yeah. If you're looking at multiverse theory, or whatever. But yeah, so there's two big times when this happened. So Wanda, to track down Doctor Strange, she uses the Darkhold to take over another version of herself through this dream walking. And it's really sad because this version of Wanda is like a really sweet, caring mother.
Yeah.
And her body is just getting run through the ringer as Scarlet Witch Wanda is just making her, obliterate people.
Dude, decimate. Oh my gosh, she's so strong.
Yes. So we're running up on about 30 minutes here, so we need to get through Doctor Strange so we can get to the other movie, and then we can kind of do some compare and contrasting. But yeah, so let's just talk about that scene for a moment, right?
The scene?
The scene that, unfortunately did get spoiled but for a lot of people if you're online, like I am on movie sites a lot and whatever. Mm-hmm. They just got spoiled. It wasn't even like, people weren't even putting up spoiler alerts or anything. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Is there something important going on your phone right now?
No.
Just wanted to make sure, because it seemed like something just urgent just happened on your phone. No. So, but yeah, so that scene that got leaked out was the Illuminati. They get trapped on another universe or another multiverse where the Illuminati is in charge, and they have executed the previous Doctor Strange because he also used the Darkhold and turned bad. So they had to kill him.
He didn't turn bad.
Yeah, he did. He turned bad, and then he confessed his sins and all of his crimes that he had done, and then helped them defeat Thanos, but he still had to answer for all his crimes that he did when he turned bad, so he had to kill him.
Oh, I see. You're right.
Yeah. They didn't have to kill him. The Illuminati's pretty brutal, apparently.
Yeah.
So the Illuminati in this universe is Black Bolt.
Yeah.
Captain Carter.
Yep.
Who we saw in What If. It's Peggy Carter, but with Captain America's powers. Oh my gosh, I'm gonna forget the guy who's from Doctor Strange. Mordo. Yeah, Baron Mordo in this. He's Baron.
Mr. Fantastic.
Yep.
And
Mr. Fantastic.
Professor X.
Just glaze right over that. Mr. Fantastic. First time we've seen and it was the fan favorite choice to play Mr. Fantastic, John Krasinski.
Which was really exciting. Yeah, I shouldn't have glazed over that. But we also have Professor X, which is also crazy.
Yeah, Professor X. Again, all these roles are all played by the original people, even if they're like alternate versions. So yeah, Peggy Carter is still playing Captain Carter.
Yeah.
And then I can't remember the character's name who's playing Captain Marvel, but what is that? Why'd you say shh?
I don't know what it was.
But you didn't do that, right?
No, I believe it was the friend of Captain Marvel, like her pilot friend.
It was her friend. I just can't remember the character's name is.
The actor. I don't remember either. So
anyway, well, but before we get to the conclusion of that scene, that's the introduction of the Marvel. Let's take the Illuminati of the Marvel. Let's take a quick break, and we'll be right back after a quick word from our sponsors.
Frozen heroes. Gonna tell you about frozen heroes. Gonna tell you about.
Hey, I'm Zach.
And I'm Mike.
And we have a fantastic new podcast to tell you about. Bros, Foes, and Heroes. It's the two of us looking into the world of comics, breaking down some characters that you may have never heard of, and some that are just absolutely ridiculous.
Yeah, so Zach comes up with a character each time, and I go into it just completely blind. I don't know who this person is or what their abilities are or anything, and basically I guess we kind of go over their origin story and just some of the ridiculous stuff that maybe, especially Golden Age stuff.
Oh, Golden Age stuff is always the best, and we will make sure to highlight all of the shenanigans and just absolute weirdness of everything.
Yeah, that's right. So subscribe today and follow us on Instagram at Bros, Foes, Heroes.
And if you don't, I know where you live. Not really, but please subscribe.
Frozen heroes. Gonna tell you about frozen heroes. Gonna tell you about.
Welcome to One Star Rewind, a new podcast about those dreaded one-star reviews that every business owner hates to receive, but yet every customer loves to read. During this podcast, we will peel back that one-star review to better understand how it happened, when it happened, and what the business owner is doing after receiving that one-star review. This podcast will be about love, hate, and laughter. On One Star Rewind, we will meet with real business owners who will tell their stories and how they do rely on reviews for their business. Follow us on Facebook, Instagram, or download us at roguemedianetwork.com. Please subscribe, but only rate and review for not a one-star review. Join us each time for a new review and a new story.
What are we doing here, Rusty? What are we going to do?
Yep, we're doing the King of the Hill Rewatch podcast.
King of the Hill
Yes, sir.
Rewatch podcast. Yeah, so we're going to go through one episode at a time. Come along for the ride with us.
Come check it out.
And give me a good like Dale Gribble quote to go out on.
Wingo.
Yeah, Wingo.
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 All right. Well, join us for the King of the Hill Rewatch podcast.
Deep in the heart of Texas, that drinks his brew and he spits his chew. Deep in the heart of Texas, the TV blares but no one cares. Deep in the heart of Texas, here we go.
welcome back to the Kid Season, the podcast.
You said that really quietly. All right, so we ended in a kind of a weird spot, but we were up against a hard break. Sorry. We just were introducing the Illuminati, right? The big scene in this movie. Mm-hmm. And it is crazy. It's crazy to see all these people. It's really crazy to get John Krasinski.
Really crazy. We were excited.
The theater was going nuts.
Yeah.
And then very quickly, Scarlet Witch horrendously murders all of them. And they're like the most powerful people like they thought they were in like the multiverse, right? Like these people are do like multiverse crimes.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? They are tracking down, they're tracking down people all over the multiverse. Because that's what their Doctor Strange is doing. He's committing multiverse crimes. They've prevented entire universes from getting destroyed.
Yeah.
By multiversal meddling.
But can I describe what happens?
I mean, sure. If you want to talk, if you have something, if you have a discussion point, unless you're just wanting to spoil it, every minute detail. Well, but go ahead.
They're watching the spoil.
Yeah.
Like you said, I just want to, because I think that we need to acknowledge what happened.
No, go ahead.
Well, we saw the people, and I just want to talk about Black Bolt. Okay. It was so sad. Black Bolt is like one of the strongest people.
Yes, he can't. He has to use sign language, and he doesn't speak because even the tiniest whisper will obliterate anything in front of him.
Yeah, and he can like destroy planets with his words. So Wanda comes in, Mama Wanda, and they're like all there. They're all like we're like, oh, we're ready to fight. And
it's funny because Doctor Strange is like, but Wanda's here, and they're like, she's nothing. Like, she's barely a nuisance. Don't worry, we'll take care of her. No problem. Her.
Yeah. And then everyone's like, don't let Black Bolt talk to you. He'll destroy you. One word from his mouth you'll die. And then she's just like, what mouth? Gone. No mouth.
Yeah. She Matrix melted his mouth together.
He has no mouth. And then he gets like, he panics and gets scared.
Yeah, he starts freaking out because his mouth is melted together.
Yeah, and he like feels his face and he's like, oh God. And then he screams, he goes like, And then his brains.
He blows his own brains out.
Yeah, like his head explodes.
But like inside, so it's even grosser.
Oh, it's literally all I wanted to say. It was so brutal. It was horrible.
She kills all of them very horrible. Like this is where we started getting into, wow, this movie is like getting real close to rated R.
Yeah, it is kind of an important discussion point because this is how you can tell like this is not a normal Marvel movie.
Yeah, and also it's when the Sam Raimi-ness like massively starts escalating because she horribly kills him, horribly kills Mr. Fantastic.
Mr. Fantastic gets spaghettied.
Cuts Agent Carter in half. You
with
see
her own shield.
With her own shield. You see her shield like drenched in blood after she chops her in half, bisects her. She makes Charles Xavier psychically snap his own neck. I mean, this is some pretty brutal stuff. And the whole time she's like covered in, it's not blood, it's like the black oil from the Ultron bots that she murdered. Yeah. So it just feels very much like Carrie. She's just walking, stalking them down these like tunnels covered in blood, just murdering everyone. And yeah, from there they keep ramping it up. Doctor Strange possesses a zombie version of himself and creates a cape out of demons. Like all kinds of awesome stuff is happening. Yeah,
this movie just goes wild, goes crazy.
Yeah, but all the visual things and all those things aside, that the cool stuff that they did. There's some great set pieces. I think some of these are like all-timer action scenes from any Marvel movie. But the issue that I have with the movie, if I'm being honest, is that the script itself isn't weird or courageous or daring or whatever. I can't think. I'm saying a bunch of words without hitting the one that I actually wanting to use. But it's safe. Let's say that the script itself is very safe. America Chavez has no character.
None at all.
The actress who plays her is great. I'm not knocking her at all. She does a great job. But as far as there's no arc for that character, we learn very little about her. And what we do learn is from one of the dumbest scenes that I've seen in any movie, which is they're just walking down the street and they happen to have memory pads.
Memory lane.
Yes. It's a store that sells you like your ability to see your memories, but why in the world would anybody want to step on those pads and have everybody be able to see them on the street?
Yeah, it was kind of weird.
It was like an exposition dump in the middle of nowhere.
It was kind of funny though.
So, it was funny. You thought it was really funny watching her parents get stripped away from her. Ha 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 ha. Anyway, I just thought that they just didn't do anything with her. She was just a MacGuffin that could talk. You know what I mean? She was not just a MacGuffin. She was a MacGuffin and a Deus Ex Machina, because whenever it was convenient for the plot, she would get scared enough to send them to another multiverse.
Yeah.
And then this is a multiverse movie. It's called In the Multiverse of Madness, and we only get to go to 2 multiverses, and only one of them is even kind of weird. The one that has the Illuminati, just looks like New York, but a little bit more future-y, not that
And
crazy.
grassy.
Yeah, but it's not that crazy.
Yeah.
And then the other one is just New York, but destroyed, and it's the same one that we saw in the What If Doctor
No.
Strange.
The one in What If, he's just in a bubble.
At the very end, but by this takes place right before it would go to the bubble part. His universe is like fracturing the whole time, and there's a whole segment where it looks like that.
Oh, well then, yeah.
But we do see evil Doctor Strange. He's not a huge pivotal plot point or anything, which is cool. But yeah, we get to see, there's a part where it shows them going into all these banana pants multiverses, but it's for like 1 second at a time.
Which is really sad.
And yeah, and that is a huge thing that I want to talk about. But so for all the great, weird Sam Raimi things and the fact that they actually made maybe the closest thing that we're going to get to a Marvel horror, you know what I mean, movie, the plot and the script itself were actually not weird at all and very, very safe for a movie that's called In the Multiverse of Madness.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? What did you think?
I mean,
You said that you didn't agree with me that the script was weak, so...
well, I just didn't think about this. I wasn't paying attention to the script.
Well, the script is the plot.
I was paying attention to, well, yeah, that's fair.
You don't have to agree with me. I'm just asking
I know,
you.
but like, I just thought all the visuals were a part of the plot.
You thought the visuals were a part of the
like,
plot.
you know, like someone had to write the demon wings.
Okay, that's not a plot point, though.
It was important to get to it. Yes, it was.
What you're saying is actually making my brain melt.
How?
It's a part of the movie.
Yeah.
It's not a part of the plot.
I mean, WandaVision murder. Or I keep saying WandaVision. Wanda destroys people and murders them. That's a part of the plot.
Yes, it is.
Blood everywhere.
Yep, that's what I'm saying. All the Sam Raimi stuff that Sam Raimi did,
That's a part of the plot, though.
Okay, but what is your point?
Because you're saying the plot wasn't.
I'm talking
was safe.
I'm talking about it was.
Yeah.
It was
But I
very.
feel like that stuff
it was,
isn't.
and it was also overly simple for a multiverse movie. I thought.
Well, the plot was simple, sure, but like that, it still wasn't. It was like, I can see what you're saying, and it makes sense.
Okay, let me explain. Let me put it to you this way: people didn't like the ending of Batman versus Superman or Dawn of Justice, whichever one it is, because they just go fight like some big monster thing, right?
Yeah, that happens then.
And it's
Batman
dumb,
versus
right?
Superman.
Okay, so if the giant monster would have gotten big demon wings and flown around and they punch each other that way, it would have looked cooler, but it doesn't change anything about the laziness of the storytelling there. So you saying, but he gets all these wings or this and this person dies, that's part of the plot. Sure, it's a part of the movie, but it doesn't change anything that Sam Raimi is able to make it look cool. It doesn't change anything structurally about how the movie is put together.
Well, then, yeah, the plot's pretty simple, but
I mean, did you think that America Chavez had a really good arc?
no, not at all. America Chavez was very, very
Poorly used.
which was really unfortunate because she was really cool.
Yeah, I agree.
But yeah, I think then yes, overall, I agree that the plot was just
It was just
there.
just kind of flat for a movie like that. And
Yeah.
if it wasn't for Sam Raimi getting brought in, and it was just had been done by like one of the journeyman directors, like one of the just the studio guys, I actually think there would have been very.
I don't think this movie would be very good.
Yeah, exactly. But I'm saying that, and as somebody who I genuinely really, really like the movie. I disagree with one of my friends was saying that he didn't think anybody had an arc, and Doctor Strange didn't have an arc. I thought he had a really good arc. I just think it was more subtle than what people are used to when they think of arc. You know what I mean? They think of started off as this guy and then ended as a completely different guy. I think him realizing that in almost every multiverse, he ends up becoming corrupted because he is so arrogant and prideful that he thinks that he knows best no matter what anybody says. And in almost every universe, he turns bad.
Yeah,
I thought that was a good arc for him to come to.
yeah, and that can help him in future things.
Yeah, and Rachel McAdams had a much bigger part in this, which I was happy about, and I thought that their little romance got a nice end. You know what I mean? And a nice conclusion.
Yeah,
So, man, we ran a little bit long talking about Doctor Strange, but at the end of the day, I will give this movie. I think I'm gonna still give it, 4 out of 5. 4 out of 5 stars.
8.
Yeah. Stop trying to mess up my whatever system.
I'm just giving it a 9. Yeah, 9. I think a 9. 9 out of 10 multiverses.
Wow, you're just really on fire. Just saying the name of the movie and all of your things.
Oh my gosh, 9 out of 10 paint people then.
Paint people? We didn't even talk about the paint people.
Doesn't matter.
Now nobody knows what that is. Well, I didn't even give anything, so I couldn't think of anything clever.
Yeah, be quiet.
So yeah, that is Doctor Strange.
That was Doctor Strange. Trying to do some comparing and contrasting.
Well, we haven't even talked about
Exactly.
But the reason I wanted to do this is because Everything Everywhere All at Once is a movie that it would just honestly be boring and futile to just try and go through it like we just did with Doctor Strange. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
This movie is very fluid in where it is in time and space and genre. Usually over the span of even like 3 seconds, all those things could have changed.
Mm-hmm.
So, do you want to do your best to do a plot synopsis? Then we'll take another quick break. And then, yeah, we'll finish the discussion in part 2. But I think that
I don't want to do it.
This is going to have to be a part 1.
I don't.
How about this? We'll take a break now. This will be the end of part 1. And then you'll have to tune in next week to get to the conclusion and the, comparing and contrasting. So let's break now. And then just know, as soon as you tune in next week,
You'll get
Solomon
a
will be
wonderful
going
plot synopsis.
directly into the plot synopsis for Everything Everywhere All at Once.
Follow us on Instagram at The Kid in the Pick and on RogueMediaNetwork.com.
Till next time.
This has been a Rogue Media podcast.